Okay, Lindsay. Hey, thank you so much for making time to talk with me. I understand you're at work and you've told me before what you do, but I don't remember. So what are you doing work-wise?
Yeah, I work for LinkedIn. Um, I do business operations, so it's basically like strategy and analytics. And I primarily focus on like abusive accounts. So trying to keep bad actors off of the LinkedIn platform, which is yeah, it's really unique, but I really enjoy it. So
How
that's what
long have you been working for them?
a little over 3 years. So
Okay.
I actually, right when I moved here is when I started working at LinkedIn. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was wondering how you fit in work between all your running and training, but we'll get to that. But
Yeah.
first, let me say I wanted to spotlight you for my newsletter. Even though I normally don't pay a lot of attention anymore to up and coming runners on the competitive scene, but I'm so impressed by what you're doing here in Telluride, and it seems like this has been a breakthrough year for you competitively on a bigger scale. And I haven't seen you get any press yet or much. I mean, maybe I haven't, I missed it. Have you?
No, definitely not.
No? Okay. Well, I'm super excited then to introduce you to a wider audience. Um, and you're getting ready for your 100-mile debut, correct?
Yes, that's currently the plan. We'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I've always, even though we have a big age difference, I've always felt a connection to you because we both have this Telluride and Northern California
Totally.
connection. And so I get all, you know, it tugs at my heartstrings and nostalgia when I see your Strava of all your runs in the Marin Headlands, and
I love it
I want
there.
to be, I want to be back there. So, anyway, let me recap some of your more recent highlights. I think, you really started to catch my attention even more last year when you won the highly competitive Broken Arrow Sky Race Triple Crown, which was, 3 races in 3 days, a vertical K, 23K, and 46K. So that was amazing. I saw you won or no, you placed second in the Quad Dipsy, one of my favorite old runs. But then what a year this has been. You won the Marin Ultra Challenge 50K in March. You won Lake Sonoma 50 miler in April. You were fourth in the uber competitive Broken Arrow 46K. And I think that was your best time ever there. And then on July 4th, which only us and Telluride can appreciate, you set a new course record, correct? At the
No,
run.
I was like 20 seconds off. I think they didn't see one of Brittany's times, but it was
Okay.
close.
Well,
It was close.
Brittany Charbonneau.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you almost got the course record and you won the insane vertical hill climb. It's only 1.25 miles, but it's an ass kicker. And then here we are 2 weekends ago. You went to Marin, you won the USATF Trail 50K championships, and then you came back here and you jumped into the Telluride Mountain Run 24-mile division and won that last Saturday. So that shows versatility and uh, endurance and resiliency to be able to win back-to-back races like that. So am I leaving anything out? Maybe your second place Crowd King Scramble,
Oh yes.
start of
And
the
then I
year
did
behind Mega March.
speed goat a couple
Oh,
months
you
ago.
you
Yeah.
did Speak Goat, and how
Right.
was that?
It was good. I got fifth. Um, and
Okay.
I really loved it. It was a beautiful course.
Yeah. Okay. So how is your body feeling and holding up with that back-to-back racing and also coming off, I mean, you're doing 100+ mile training weeks.
Yeah, I've feel pretty good. Surprisingly a little bit. But I did try to back off the past couple weeks because I knew these 2 weeks were coming. But yeah, I've been feeling really good. I feel really lucky, honestly, because um when I started running more seriously in college, I was injured like perpetually. Like I couldn't stay healthy. And it took until I don't know, I feel like I didn't get consistency until probably 2020, honestly. And so I feel so grateful that my body has like let me continue to kind of increase mileage and do these crazy back-to-back events. But I mostly just feel grateful because it wasn't always like this. So I have been pretty resilient, knock on wood, the past couple of years, but it definitely wasn't always like this. So yeah, I've been really happy with how I've been able to sustain pretty high mileage, do quite a few races and stay relatively healthy.
And high mileage around here is a big deal because it's also high vert. And so it's more time consuming than equivalent mileage in a coastal area.
Totally. But
It's more,
well, I do think it's more time and potentially more challenging. I think my body handles it better because I think the slower paces and hiking, is a lot easier on the body, honestly. So while it takes more time, I think if I was running this much at sea level, like, just running on roads, the same cadence all the time, I feel like that wear and tear is more prominent, honestly, than doing some of the bigger weeks at altitude. Just having the like variety of stride and I don't know, like pace, I think is really helpful.
Mostly agree with that, although bombing down Sea Forever and the Telluride
Yeah,
Trail,
yeah.
bombing down 4,000 feet is hard on the body too.
Totally. That's why you got to keep it slow.
Okay, so I realize I don't know much about your background. Like when you said you ran in college, I thought, for some reason, I thought you were a Nordic ski racer before being a runner too. So
Yeah, I
tell
didn't
me
run
your
competitively in
background.
college. Yeah, I will. So let's see. I grew up doing a million sports. No, nothing serious or, everything in moderation, I'd say. I was a ski racer. I was a downhill ski racer, growing up. And then I played like soccer and swam, and I actually was pretty competitive gymnast, growing up. So I did a lot of things. And I did do cross country in middle school, I think even primary school, and a little bit in high school. I did it a couple years in high school, but I wasn't, it was more like staying in shape for soccer type thing. But I would say, so I went to school, went to high school in Marin, like right by Phoenix Lake. I know you're familiar with the area.
I was gonna clarify that you grew up in Marin, so what high
I
school
did,
did
sorry.
you go
Yeah,
to?
so I went to Branson, which is like right at the base of Mount Tam, basically. And so that's sort of like where I fell in love with trail running in particular. Because I did cross country 2 years. And we'd run a mile to Phoenix Lake and then just have like all these trails, which I was super grateful for. And I actually met Alex Varner at that time, who was a pro Nike athlete. And he's about 10 years older than me, but he went to Branson as well. And he kind of would come in and out of he would kind of help coach us a little bit. And actually, ultras came on my radar because he was doing his first 50K when I was a senior in high school. And I was just like in awe. I was like, oh my gosh, how do you run that far? That's so cool. I was super inspired by him. And that's kind of like when Ultra kind of got on my radar. I think he actually did Western States that year as well. And I was just like blown away that you could run 100 miles.
He's
But
also like one of the top runners in the single Dipsy, so that must
totally. Yeah,
planted
he has
the
a ton of
seed of the
range too.
Dipsy in you.
Yeah, yeah. So he kind of like lit that spark in me a little bit. Like I think I thought to myself, wow, someday I would love to be able to do that. But never thought I could do it. Like, it was just seemed so wild. So anyway, did that in high school. Also did soccer and skiing, etc. Um, I went to Stanford for college, so I did not run there. They're way too good for me. And I was on the club ski team. So I raced in college, but it was a club team and um I really enjoyed that. So I'd run just kind of for fun, couple miles here and there. But then my junior year, I moved. Everyone lives on campus all 4 years at Stanford, which I think is pretty special. And they have these like theme houses that you can end up living in, and you have to apply to them. It's kind of funny. But I ended up living in this one called Outdoor House. So it's basically just a bunch of people who love the outdoors. Um, And through that community, I met a couple people who had done some 50Ks. And I was like, wow, like this is my opportunity to figure out how to do this. So I'd say my like junior year, I just started running a little bit more, basically because there was other people around me doing it. We would go to there's all those foothills by Stanford. And so we'd go run in the trails there. And I just like really started falling in love with it and realized that um, like I did my first half marathon and I originally had thought that was like crazy. And then it just kind of kept escalating from there. And then my senior year, I did my first 50K, which was actually Broken Arrow, which is why that race is really special to me.
Wait, I'm sorry. Your first 50K was Broken
Broken
Arrow?
Arrow, yeah,
Oh, I thought
in
your first
2018.
50K. Oh, okay. I was looking um at the 2019 Woodside Ramble, which was one of
Oh, that
my
one. I love
favorite
that one.
50Ks. I used to do different iterations of those Woodside Ramble and Crystal Springs and
Yeah, I love Inside Trail. Yeah, I did Broken Arrow 2018. Um, it was the day before I graduated actually. So, um, but it was like a really special weekend to like do that and then um, graduate the next day. But, but yeah,
so you really took off with your running after or during or after the pandemic.
it was before. I graduated in 2018. So I got into it probably like 2016, 2017 was when I started running more seriously. And then 2018 was that first 50K.
Darn, we just missed overlapping
I
because like
know.
I was at my peak around 2016. That's like
Oh
when I
man.
had a good Western States and stuff, and then I moved here. So when and why did you migrate to Telluride?
Yeah, so right when I graduated, one of my best friends from college actually got a job working at the newspaper at the Daily Planet. And she actually grew up in Aspen, so she kind of knew of Telluride. And
Sorry, which
I
quarter was that?
Sophie Stuber.
Oh yeah.
She still reports. Yeah. So we were really good friends in college. Still friends. And so I had lined up a job after I graduated. And it was in the Denver area, but I got them to push my start date off for like 9 months. So I graduated in June and I got them to push my start date till March. So I had this like 8, 9 month window. And I was really looking forward to that because I'd heard stories of people who just went straight into the working world after they graduated and they really regretted it because it's like, you do that the rest of your life. So I was really looking forward to this like short amount of time where I could just do something else. And so when I found out that Sophie, my friend, was moving to Telluride, I was like, oh, well, I'll come. I'm like, I'll come for the summer. So I moved here. One of our other friends came as well. So there are three of us that moved here for the summer of 2018. Um, and I worked at Hi Pie, which was a pizza place in town. It's no longer here, but I loved it. So I
Wait,
worked
did you
there.
overlap that? Did you overlap with my son Kyle Smith there? Or he might have been
I don't
2017
know.
at High Pie. Both my kids got their first jobs at High Pie.
Really? Oh, that's so funny. I loved working there. It was great. It was really fun. Um, I also think everyone should work in the service industry. I think that was like a really valuable experience, honestly. Um, but anyway, so that summer is kind of where I really started mountain running. Like I didn't know, growing up in the Bay Area, there's a ton of trails, but it's not mountain running, it's like it's a different type of running. And so yeah, I remember doing the High Line for the first time and just thinking like, what was I was hiking. What was that? Like that wasn't running. But I like obviously was so beautiful. I just fell in love with it so much. But that was my first true like mountain running summer and I really got to um that was to our conversation to our point a little bit earlier about being injured. I had been really injured through college, like it was just battling thing after thing, and that summer was kind of the first time I didn't have anything pop up, and I attributed it a lot to just like not running as fast and hiking more. And I felt like I would do a ton of strength in college because, I was always in physical therapy for whatever injury I had, and they were always telling you to do Klingham shells or whatever the exercises were. but I kind of stopped doing them when I got here because there was so much strength just in running, like hiking, and I felt like I was getting so much of that just from running. And I actually wonder if I had been doing too much strength, honestly, and I was like tiring the muscles that then should have been used for running. So I don't know, it was like this really special time for me because I was finally healthy. I was like in this place that I thought was the most magical place ever. And just like had the best summer. And then I stayed through the winter because I had 9 months. Um, and I enjoyed that as well. And then I moved to Boulder in like March of 2019 to start this job. And I definitely was always thinking like, oh, I'd love to come back. I don't know if I ever will, but what a special time. So yeah, that was how I found Telluride. And then fast forward a couple of years, I worked that job for 2.5 years, and then I got a job at LinkedIn, which actually was going to bring me back to the Bay Area. We were planning to move back. Um, and that was 2021. So it was still COVID. Um, and they wanted me to come back to the office at the end of the summer. I joined in like July. So I had a couple months. And so I told Ryan, my partner, we should just go to Telluride for the summer. It'll be like a last Colorado hurrah, how fun. And then we'll move to the Bay Area and, move along with our lives. Um, and so we moved here for the summer of 2021. The Delta variant happened, so they kept pushing off the return to office. Um, and so we kind of were like, oh, should we just stay a little longer? Like, I guess we'll just keep staying. And then finally, it was probably like, I don't know, December-ish, where they actually just made a remote policy. And so I got remote status, and we've just been here since. So it
Amazing.
was really fortuitous, but I'm like so happy. I think living here is really healthy. Um,
It's key to your running
it
too.
is. It's key to the running, but I also just think I'm a better person. I think growing up in the Bay Area is amazing, but it's also really competitive and really like breeds a type A personality, which I
Well,
have.
especially if you go to a top prep
Yeah,
school
yeah.
followed by Stanford.
Yeah, so I think it's really like refreshing to just be surrounded by a different type of person. I think like mellowing out is really good for me. And I think like I don't know, I just like the version of myself I am here. So I feel very lucky.
I normally don't ask people about their personal relationships, but your partner Ryan Becker is another top runner around here,
Yeah.
arguably one of the top male runner in this region. He's also having some breakout performances, and it seems like you two have a really supportive relationship and do most of your training runs together. So, when and how did you two meet,
Yeah.
and how do you like trade off who's racing? And who's
That's a good
crewing?
question. Yeah, so actually we met so the part I skipped is when I moved to Boulder, um I I lived with Andy Wacker, who is a really good trail runner in the area. And he's like known for housing a bunch of like good runners. And usually it's temporary, like people kind of come and go from his house, but I got connected with him. And I moved there, which was amazing. I really, really like Andy and Carly, his wife, but Ryan was living there. So we actually met living in the same house, which is really funny.
Did you
And
guys like when you met, did you look at each other and say, "Hey, you look like me. We could be siblings"?
yeah,
Because that's
yeah,
what people
totally.
say when they
We do
see
look really
you.
similar. It's pretty wild. But yeah, so we met living in Andy's house. So like the funny part of our relationship is that we've never actually not lived together, which is pretty wild. Um, but yeah, so that's how we met. And then in terms of training, yeah, I mean, I honestly, Ryan is like arguably like the reason I have gotten so much better at running, I would say. Like he is so supportive of me. Just like always willing to do my workouts with me, and I don't know, pushes me, and usually will deprioritize himself to like help me, which and that's I the most amazing thing you could ever ask for. So I'm super grateful for that. But I think yeah, our relationship kind of started just running. And so I think you know, it's really special to us to just be able to go on adventure runs together and train together as well. So, but yeah, I'm super grateful, honestly, to have him because he's obviously an amazing runner and definitely pushes me to be better. So yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
mean, just seeing him, so I spectated the Rundle
so
this year.
fast.
And for those who don't know what the Rundle is, it's a 1,800-foot climb and just slightly over a mile. And Ryan just, it's just the way he was able to bound up that hill and set a course record. I
It's
mean, it's
crazy.
unrunnable to me. Like I'm
No,
like,
no, I didn't run at all.
it's like a ladder. Um,
Yeah,
It's
totally.
really impressive. So, well, what about your coach who you started working with last year? You told me Forrest
Yeah,
Bog
Forrest.
Montana. How has he changed and improved your training?
Yeah, I Forrest is he's great. I met him quite a while ago, honestly. He coordinates the rut. And I've done the rut since 2018 actually. So I've met him kind of a couple times over the years and I started working with him. I actually started working with him in 2022. So it's been a couple years. I think the biggest thing, well, two things about Forrest. So um one, he uh respects the fact that I want to run high mileage. So I had a previous coach who I really enjoyed, but didn't didn't kind of like let me run as much as I wanted, I felt like. And I get why. Like I was injured perpetually, right? Like there's like a million reasons why I shouldn't have run that much. But I think like over time I built endurance and was able to do more. So I was really grateful for Forrest, like, you know, giving me high mileage and like allowing me to kind of figure out what that meant over time. And then I think the second thing is just like consistency in workouts. And I don't think that's, you know, it's not like his I think that what he's done for me is just like encourage me to do them no matter what type thing. Like it doesn't matter if it's a bad day. It doesn't matter if it's not the perfect conditions. It doesn't matter if you're not going as fast as you want to be going, right? Like, but just doing it every week, I think has been probably the biggest game changer for me. Um, and yeah, he's a strength coach, so he gives me some strength as well. I think that's been super helpful. And he's just really personal. Like he knows me as a person. I think that's been super helpful. And I think the biggest thing for me is really just holding me back sometimes, like from running too much. And I don't always listen, but he's really good at like, you know, hey, you should probably take a rest day, or like, hey, you know, like it's okay that you don't do this much. And so I think he just has a really nice like balance of pushing and also like knowing how I operate and what I need. So yeah, I've really enjoyed working with Forrest.
Well, let's talk about your 100-mile prep. You're signed up to do the October 11th UTMB Kodiak 100, which is around Big Bear near Los Angeles. Why did you choose that as your first 100? Is it because you're gaining UTMB points and trying to get to Chamonix?
Yeah, yes, I think that I would love to do OCC or not OCC, sorry, CCC or UTMB. So I think having it be the major and knowing that 10 people have that opportunity was definitely an incentive. I think I do better at high altitude just coming from here. I think Big Bear is pretty high. I think it's also around 8,000 feet. So I think that is an advantage. Um, and yeah, I think, well, it was open. Registration was open when I was interested. So I signed up for the bear last year and I ended up not doing it. I keep having these false starts on hundreds because I really want to do one and then just circumstances or you know, I feel like your heart has to be in it to do 100. And like last summer, I just wasn't in a good mental space for it. So yeah, I think it was just kind of like it's the right time of year. I like the late, like after summer, you can enjoy a whole summer and then have a race to cap it. And then the UTMB piece definitely was a motivating factor too.
Have you paced or crewed as part of your 100-mile prep? Like done any overnight running?
Not this year. I mean, I've paced and crewed over the years. I have not done any night running. I think that is gonna be probably the biggest hurdle. I think it starts kind of late. It's an afternoon start, so there's no avoiding the night. So that will definitely be, I don't do well with sleep deprivation. So I think that'll be probably like the crux of it for me. So I might do something over the next couple months, but I haven't done anything to date yet.
So I remember a year and a half ago, you graduated to the 100K distance at Black Canyon in February of 2023, and you had a disappointing race there, right? I don't remember why, but did you learn anything from that disappointing experience that you'll leverage for a strong 100-mile debut?
Yeah, definitely. I think so the biggest thing that happened, my legs just like exploded. And I think it was probably because it was winter running. We run on snow. I didn't have the pounding in my legs from trails. So I think that was probably the majority of it. But I think two things that I am taking from that. One, I think fueling can solve a lot of that. I think once I started deteriorating a little bit, I gave up. And that also meant like not eating as much. And so I think I probably could have mitigated some of it if I had just kept up my fueling. And then the other piece is mentally. I think what I just said of like kind of giving in to the, oh, I'm not feeling good, this is horrible, mindset. I think there's going to be low points, and I think like embracing them and realizing that they can pass is like the other biggest learning, and just like remembering why I want to do it and like get myself to the finish line rather than, be fixated. If I don't get 10th and I don't get into G2 like that's okay. Like I need to have, the bigger picture in mind. Like, oh, I want to finish my first 100. I want to like progress at this distance. So I think just trying to reframe those things and then keep up the fueling are the two biggest things.
Are you getting on the high carb bandwagon? Because I mean, I can't, it's insane to me to have 120 grams of carbs, which
That's
is
crazy.
480 calories an hour. I mean, I'm training for a self-supported event now where I have to carry all my calories for the week. So I'm
Yeah,
doing the
that won't be
bit like
possible.
I'm trying to just burn my fat stores and be a
Yeah.
tortoise because I can't do that kind of high carb fueling, but I get a gag reflex from
Mm,
too frequent gels and everything. So like, how
interesting.
are you trying to?
Yeah, I've been trying to push it more than I have in the past. But I'm not getting like 120 grams. I would say I aim for like 80 or 90 an hour, which is like three-ish gels, which is a lot. Like it's hard to do that for me, but it's doable. I've been trying, at least I'm trying. That's what I'm trying to do.
I remember from your Instagram a year or more ago, you used to be an ambassador for goo. Are you still?
They canceled that program, so not anymore. I
So you're
I
free to take any kind of gel.
yeah, I the feed supports me a little bit, so which is yeah, any gel. I do honestly, I still think goo works the best for me. So I primarily eat goo. I've been trying out some different ones like precision and um
Did you read my newsletter about
I did read your newsletter.
my first time I had
I know your
precision?
thoughts about it. I really liked it for a while, and I actually just this past weekend or at Tamalpa actually I got really nauseous, which never that's not something that happens to me. Um and that's the only thing that's different. And so I'm wondering if it doesn't sit with me or something. So I think I'll probably go back to being goo exclusively just because, why break something that works, right?
Well, my unsolicited advice for your first 100 is take some Tums and practice with them
So
beforehand.
interesting.
Because Tums, I think a lot of the nausea is just belly gas and you just need to burp. And
Oh,
so
interesting.
if you chew and swallow Tums and then you start doing big burps, it's very helpful.
Nice. Okay, good tip.
Yeah. So speaking of brands and stuff, you currently run for Rabbit's Elite Trail Team and you're getting support from the feed. Are you looking and hoping to get more sponsorship? I mean, to be more supported in your habit,
Yeah,
in your habit, in your
my
sport.
habit it is. Yeah, I mean, I think I would love that. I think um I've been thinking about this a lot because I think it would feel validating to have, more support. I think it's very expensive to like, get to Europe, for instance. Like I would love to try to do more international races, but I can't go to Europe 3 times a year, So I think there's this interesting dynamic with sponsorship where, you get more opportunities if you have a sponsor, but then to get the opportunity, it's like this like self-fulfilling prophecy a little bit where you kind of like need the resources to be able to like go to the stage and do well or whatever. So I think that would be a really awesome opportunity. I wonder how I would feel like pressure wise. Because I do think it creates an interesting dynamic where you feel, right now I feel relatively unknown, which I kind of like. Like it's fun to feel like there's only upside when you race. So I think that would change the dynamic a lot, but um I think it would be interesting. Um but yeah, I think, you know, I feel lucky that I have a job that supports me. Um, so do I need to be a sponsored athlete? No. Would I like to? Yes. Like I think just having a little bit of support to like, do some more races or test myself a little bit more would be really exciting.
Well, my perspective of doing this 20 years longer than you, but never at your level is, I think it's commendable to like, my advice is don't put all your eggs in the basket of your sport. Like, I think it's good you
Totally.
have a professional job and your identity isn't entirely wrapped up in
Yes.
being a,
I don't want to drop that and I never will, but I think, having a little bit of support it would be interesting to see what that does. Both good
what,
and bad.
what are some of your longer term goals, either related to running or to life in general?
Um, I feel like I have been on an upward trajectory. I think like just continuing to see where I can go is like number one goal. I would love to race some form of UTMB next year. I actually got into OCC from Speed Goat. Um, so I will at least do that next year. Um, but yeah, I mean I do run pretty high mileage. I can sustain it pretty well. So I think I potentially could be better at like the longer, more mountainous stuff. So I would love to, try to compete in some of those European style longer races. I think that would be really exciting, but um mostly I just love running. So I think just like continuing to do that and then just see where the racing takes me is kind of my longer term goals. Career wise, I want to like keep growing as well. I feel like for me, like the biggest thing I'm trying to avoid in life is stagnating. So I think like intellectually, I want to keep being pushed. I want to like feel like I'm learning every day at work. And then I think similarly for running, I don't want to get bored. I want to keep finding the next challenge and just kind of see where it takes me. I don't have anything concrete, but I just kind of want to keep seeing what's possible.
I should have mentioned at the outset, because journalistically, I always like to know people's ages. And so you're 28,
I'm
which
28.
is still pretty young. Um,
Right.
I mean, when I was your age, I was just getting serious about road marathons, but I was also pregnant with my first baby. But I didn't run my first 50K till I was 10 years older than you. I was 38. Um, and yeah, it's so I mean, I was going to ask you, like, if you ever look ahead to your 50s and what you want to be doing then, but that's like me looking ahead to my 80s. And it's just so hard to look that far into the future,
Totally.
you
Yeah.
know?
I don't know. I mean, I'd love to. I hope I'm still running. I hope I still love running. Because I think I started running just like basically to connect with people, like living in that community, just being able to be outside with friends. I think you like bond with people in a different way. It's really special. So, while it's like I still think the Telluride community, we have so many runners and that's like I run with someone most days and I think that's like really special. So that's why I love it. And so I hope that while I'm on this like journey of trying to figure out how to be better at running right now. Like I hope that I still have running, you know. So that's kind of what I hope. Um, but mostly I just love being active and outdoors. So whether
Yeah.
it's running or it's something else, I just hope I'm outside.
Well, I know, I'm just like wondering how you fit in your training with your professional job. And so I feel like self-conscious of taking up too much of
Oh
your time.
no, it's totally
We can
fine.
wrap this up. But I mean, it must be a hard squeeze. Do you get enough sleep?
Not always. Yeah, I mean, I joke like I run and I work and that's about it. But I think I'll get up early. I basically run before work every day, and then most days I do something in the afternoon too. Um, but that's why like I try to combine my socializing and my running so that, because it's
Yeah.
not sustainable, right? To have like I think it was like my first job. Someone was like, you can have friends, you can work out, or you can be really good at your job, but you can only have two. You have to like, or maybe sleep was the other one. There was like, one more than you could have.
That's so
Um,
sad. There's no room for family in
I
that.
know that. Well,
I
that's
mean,
friends and family. Whatever
okay.
your diagram is, you basically can have like one less than you want. Um, and so I think like I feel lucky that at least the friends and exercise piece can overlap, but usually something goes, something always goes, whether it's sleep or whether it's socializing or running or, you can't always be your best. I'm not always working as much as some weeks I'm working 60 hours, but some weeks I have to work 30. It's like it's always a balance, but
Well,
I like being
Lin-
busy. So at
Lindsay,
least there's that.
is there anything I didn't ask you about that you want to share? Or anything about your racing or training?
No, I think you covered most of the things. Yeah, it's yeah, thank you for having me. It's always fun to have you in the community too, because you have such wisdom and you've been doing it for so long that I
But
always
sadly,
love.
I'm feeling very antisocial now because I don't run with your group because it's,
Yeah,
I can't keep up, but it's nice to be in
you
touch
could
with
keep up.
people. Yeah.
I know it is fun.
All right. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna end the recording and say goodbye, but hang on for a sec because I want
sounds
to.
good.
Alrighty. So thanks again.
No problem. Thanks for having me.